welcome in. This is your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Arnold Palmer Invitational. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, good evening. Happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday to you, man. Great way to wrap up the week, as always, here for Power Hour. Excited to continue the carnage that is the Florida swing after what we saw to end Sunday. God.
These Florida events, man, and it's not going to stop next week either. Like, there's going to be just two guys at the top of the betting board who eject themselves on Thursday. Like, this is what Florida golf is.
Yeah, the surest thing last week was probably like Sung Jae. I think I even spoke about that on the show, and he missed the cut. Neiman missed the cut. So it's just that stuff just happens. You have to be ready to embrace it, and maybe shift up your strategy down here in the Southeast a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. We will embrace it, and we will also embrace the opportunity to provide you, the listeners, the watchers, with some cash. How about that? You can leave your Jock Market username in the chat right now. That will get you entered into a draw for Jock Bucks. We'll give those out as the night goes on, but a very simple way to enter. And of course, the code that you're looking for, POWER, that'll get you up to a $50 deposit bonus when you go and make your deposit at Jock Market. And Joe, if people have stumbled in here and they have no idea what stock market DFS is, how this show works, how would you best describe this Wednesday night to them?
So it is basically fantasy golf within the context of the stock market. So right now we're in the IPO hour until just before 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can bid actively on every player in the field. You'll see that share price continue to move up throughout the night. Once it clears your bid price, you no longer have any shares. So once that 9 o'clock hour ticks, you will be allocated whoever you have a remaining bid left on. This thing is fluid throughout the tournament. You can buy and sell basically all the way from Thursday until Sunday afternoon. There's short selling. Anything basically, Rick, that you can do in the stock market, you can pretty much do in the Jock Market.
Well, I'm losing money in the stock market right now, and I assume I can also lose money in the Jock Market, but I can make money in the Jock Market, Joe. And I think the guaranteed payouts are really the thing that's interesting, right? DKNG doesn't have a guaranteed payout. I can assure you of that, my friend, but it does in the Jock Market. So here we go. Here's last week's data. Sepp Straka, 1 week ago tonight, sold for $3.37 a share. That guaranteed first place payout of $25 a share. $21.63 per profit. But Joe, he was 150 to 1. Okay. How about Kurt Kitayama? $1.89 last week. $18 a share for finishing third. That is an 852% ROI, Joe. That is the 7th best ROI ever.
Incredible. Like, it's rare anymore. It feels like that we see anybody, Rick, go for sub $2. Kurt Kitayama straight out of left field with a great performance last week. There were some other guys that pop. Hodges, Svensson. Like, last week was we saw some familiar names. We saw Daniel Berger there. We saw Lowry. We saw Woodland, guys who we expected kind of to play well, but we also saw a bevy of names who kind of came out of nowhere and got you a ton of ROI. So all throughout the market, top, middle, bottom, there were opportunities to make money pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, that data that I just showed, you can get that for free. It's on my website. It's RickRunGood.com. Go under tools, free tools. You'll find the Jock Market information there. Daniel Berger, despite blowing his 5-shot lead with 18 to go, his 6-shot lead with 19 to go, Joe, still returned to profit. $8.75 was his IPO price last week, $16 a share. So basically doubled your money. So lots of different ways for you to get into the green in the Jock Market.
Yeah, about the only place that Daniel Berger left people happy on Sunday afternoon was the Jock Market, who had invested in him last week. Felt kind of like he had it wrapped up, did it not? And then all of a sudden it felt like Shane Lowry had it wrapped up. But that's PGA National. That's the Bear Trap plus 18. That's a little bit of funky weather situation coming in, all those factors, and you end up getting Sepp Straka hoisting a trophy at the end of the day.
Unbelievable stuff. Make sure your Jock Market username is in the chat. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, we'll get through them as the night goes on, so don't be afraid to interact. But I think, Joe, it's time for us to play a little game called Bullish or Bearish. This is our opportunity to take a stand on 4 different golfers. And the way that we do that is we look at each golfer's fair value and the position that they would have to finish to achieve that fair value. And we decide if we are bullish or bearish. Let's start with Rory McIlroy. Has been absolutely phenomenal at Bay Hill in his career. What we're using tonight is $8.56 as his fair value. That's asking him to finish 15th or better, Joe. Bullish or bearish on Rory?
Bullish for me, believe it or not. And I'm usually bearish at these guys at the top. As you know, number one in the field I have in driving distance, which is sort of the route that we saw Bryson take to sort of his path to victory this year. Really good in his long irons. Where Rory kind of struggles is the wedges and the 9-irons and like these shorter holes. I think this course sets up ultimately perfect for him. He's number one in strokes gained tee to green at Bay Hill. I know that there have been some changes over the last couple of years to the course, but this is still coming back to a place where he's comfortable, where he's won. I'm going to go bullish on Roars.
I am as well. So he has elite course history. Rory's good at all places, but he's basically, this is a top 10 player course combination since 2008. So I'm very bullish, Joe. The only problem is, a little spoiler alert, he's already at $7.33. I don't think we're going to get him anywhere near 856. So we might have to readjust this fair value here. How high are you willing to go on the guy?
I'm willing to creep into the mid 9s, I think, on Rory. I like him just as much, pretty much, as I like John Rahm this week. The betting price is a little too short for me. I think this is a place where I feel a little bit better about putting some of my dollars on Mr. McIlroy.
All right, 2 bulls on Rory McIlroy. We'll go now to Sungjae Im. You invoked that name a little bit earlier, Joe. He was very popular last week in all fantasy formats, and of course, he misses the cut. That is his biggest loss. Oh boy, I'm just scrolling through his data here. That's his biggest loss since, oh my god, ever. That last week was his biggest loss ever. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense because his IPO was high and he missed.
He was the favorite. Yeah.
But that was his biggest loss ever. Tonight, we're using $7.16 a share as his fair value, which is 21st or better, bullish or bearish on Sungjae.
Yeah, here's another one I think probably ends up clearing that price. I believe his projected rank is 13th tonight, which is probably realistically in the top 7 or 8 guys in the field. I think it's pretty fair to say. I'm going to go for a bounce back at Bay Hill for Sungjae. Last week, you mentioned PGA National. Weird things happen when you bring in water into play on 15 or 16 holes. You hit a couple bad shots, you miss the cut. It happens. He's great in Florida. The ball striking numbers have been great, normally very accurate off the tee. I think that there's going to be a little more emphasis this week versus last on around the green game, and I have him ranked 3rd over the last 24 rounds in sort of around the green game. I know that stat can get a little hairy because it depends on where you're playing from around the green, but he's got a great set of hands on him. Really like his chances to bounce back this week, and if we're asking him to basically top 20, I'm bullish on that number.
Yeah, as am I. And yes, you nailed it. The volatility of PGA National, the fact that Sungjae usually doesn't have 2 horrible weeks in a row, and this is another place he's been awesome at. So I think you want to look at this as an opportunity to quickly forgive, quickly forget. If he burns us again, so be it. But I think this is one of the better spots for an immediate bounce back. So 2 more bulls on Sungjae Im. Let's move on. Chris Kirk. Now, Chris Kirk, we are using tonight. Well, I just scrolled right past him. Here we go. $4.27, 39th or better. I think he goes probably more expensive than that, Joe, but are you a bull or a bear on Chris Kirk?
3 bulls in a row for me, believe it or not. I like Chris Kirk a lot this week. I thought that he played very solid last week at PGA. I think he finished 7th. The tournament before that, which I believe was Waste Management, top 15 there as well for Chris Kirk. So returning a solid ROI in both events. I think both have a lot of similarities to this. Firm, fast, Bermuda grass, a lot of water around, trouble lurking, places to take advantage. I think this could be another good setup for Chris Kirk, who actually got his last official win in Central Florida as well, with the King and the Bear over there, right outside of Orlando. So Good spot for Chris Kirk in good form. I'm going to go bullish and say that he probably top 30s again this week.
So I'll kind of take a nuanced angle on the fair value we're using. I'm a bull. I think he's going to be way more expensive than that.
Yeah.
I just think so. I'll probably end up taking a bearish approach on Chris Kirk because I think he's going to get steam from the great week in Phoenix, the great week at PGA National. This has generally been a pretty good spot for him. There are some guys I'm willing to look at the history and be like, okay, I can live without Chris Kirk in my portfolio tonight. So I'll be a bear there, which leaves us with one final guy here, and he's a past champion. It's Mark Leishman. He's the 7th ranked, pre-ranked golfer, $7.52, Joe, 19th or better for Leash. Which way do you want to go?
Here's a bear for me. I'm going to take bearish on Leishman at that price, basically thinking that he does not finish top 20 this week. Here's why. I think there's two ways in a lot of these Florida courses to kind of play it, and you don't want to get stuck in the middle. You want to be on one side of the spectrum where you have a strength. You either want to be very, very accurate off the tee to keep yourself out of water, out of trouble, or you want to be really long. Leishman's not really either. I've got him 40th in driving distance, 88th in fairways. That's a recipe for disaster. He's also 101st in proximity from 200 plus. There's a lot of things that just aren't lining up for him this week. I know he has solid course history here, but I'm going to take a bearish approach and just think that number's a little bit inflated for me.
As am I. I think when you get guys with really good course history, especially in the jock market, you end up being asked to pay for it. And I'm not always to want to pay for it. So I find myself not getting these guys in my portfolio. And I imagine we're going to have the same situation with Mark Leishman tonight. And to Leishman's credit, there are other spots for him. You could deploy Leishman. I mean, I'll just show you the screen again. You can see the really good finishes here at Shriners and Fortinet and Travelers and even the Masters and there's a lot of places to deploy Leishman. I don't need to pay for the course history. So that's kind of why I will take a bearish approach this evening.
Yeah, you made a great point about course history. I don't love it in Florida pretty much in general, just because you miss by 5 yards and all of a sudden you're hitting 3. It's just there are spots where it tends to be sticky. I don't love it down here. We saw Sung Jae. We've seen Daniel Berger finish 2nd at PGA a couple times. Then he misses the cut. It's like every other year. So there's a lot of volatility anytime you bring so many hazards into play. I'm willing to kind of overlook that through this entire swing.
Yeah, we're about 30 minutes away from this IPA. Wow, I got beer. I got happy hour on the mind. From this IPO closing a couple of minutes before 9 p.m. Eastern time. So let me start the funds here. Let me start giving away some cash. The first $20 to the jock market goes to Rudy Beta. Congratulations, you are on the board. I will pass your information along to the guys over at Jock Market, and they'll take a couple of days to get that into your account. But congratulations, you're our first winner. If you want to be like Rudy, go ahead and put your Jock Market username in the chat right now. That'll get you entered into a draw for $20. Joe, let's turn our attention to this golf course. Bay Hill is one that we know, we love. We get it every single year. It generally offers thick rough, and we are seeing more of the same this week. You kind of talked about a little bit with the Leishman skill set or lack thereof for Bay Hill, but what type of golfers are you looking to find for success this week?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm looking for players that have a particular strength in one area or another, looking for good long iron players, looking for players who putt really well traditionally on these sort of lightning, quick, fast, slippery, slopey greens that they have there at Bay Hill. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of around the green game this week. I haven't heard many people talk about it, but I think that just where you're going to be coming in with the approaches, I've seen some, we see the ball drop videos in the rough. It looks relatively thick, but it will be a factor based on what we've seen recently. It was nothing last week at PGA National. So yeah, that's kind of what I've sort of honed in on this week, and I'm going to sort of stick to it. Anything I missed there?
No, I do like the around the green thing because so two parts. We know statistically that this golf course will ask you for more approach shots from 200 yards than the tour average. We know that. That's a stat. There's really no debating it. But when you are hitting from 200 yards and out, Joe, you're missing a lot of greens. And what ends up happening, as you put it, you're kind of at the mercy of the lie that you get, whether it buries down, nestles down, whether it sits up, whether it does something in between. And having an arsenal of different shots around the green, being able to go high, being able to go low, being able to use different clubs is a valuable skill set. So I like that as kind of a low key, decent little focus for this week.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like you want guys who play hard golf course as well, right? A lot of the stuff that we saw early in the season with sort of the Hawaii swing and even some of the numbers that we saw like at Riviera, for instance, it normally plays hard. I don't think this place gets anywhere near those type of numbers under par this week. You're going to want guys that play difficult golf course as well, U.S. Open type conditions. I actually think this place is harder than PGA National. It just has those 2 extra par 5s. Which allow for the scoring to be a little bit lower when you see final score. But overall, this is a difficult test, and it's going to be demanding, and it's going to take every part of their game to be firing on all cylinders in order to play well.
Well, we're just a few minutes removed from our bullish or bearish segment, and Rory McIlroy, Joe, has already surpassed our fair value for this evening. We set it at $8.57. He's already at $9.01. So what you're asking Rory to do at that price is finish 13th or better. I love the history. Rory's coming in decent form with the T10 at Riviera. We might be looking at a massive number on Mr. McIlroy this evening.
He played a couple tournaments on the European Tour. I think he had a really good finish in the Desert Classic out there, but
he probably should have won it. Then Victor came in and won in a playoff.
Is that the one he ripped the shirt?
He coughed. I don't know if it was that one, but I don't know actually. I felt like the ripped shirt was so long ago, but I feel like the shot that he hit into 18 was more recent.
Yeah, so I think he finished 3rd in that event. You look there, his last 5 tournaments, he hasn't finished worse than 18th. Seems to be reinvigorated, seems to have that bounce back in his step. What do you think? You think he's going to win this thing?
I think he's got a really good chance to win this thing. I mean, there are concerns, right? There are concerns that he is putting outside of his mind right now, which I know should not necessarily be viewed as a concern, but this is not necessarily vintage Rory, but the way that he's driving the ball plays so well at Bay Hill. He is, the experience around here, I think, is incredibly important, especially without the greens reading books this week. And I just think for a guy who won 6 starts ago, I feel like he's still hungry. He wants to be piling up these victories, and I think he's got a really great shot this week. Yeah, I love the way Rory sets up for this.
I know it's funny when you pull that up. If you could pull it back up, like he's not hitting his irons very well. He's like losing strokes with his irons on average, but we know his strength is put that up. He's probably got the new stealth in the bag. Fire that thing out there as far as you want. He's going to be a force off the tee. And when he can gain 4, 5, 6 strokes putting, there's probably no one that's going to beat him in the world putting those numbers up.
Yeah, scary stuff there. Lining up behind a couple of darlings for this week, but obviously a big gap. It's early, but a $4 gap from Rory McIlroy to Keith Mitchell and Will Zalatoris, Joe, who are number 2 and number 3 early in this market. Keith Mitchell, we go through these stretches, right? We go through these stretches of guys who are playing well and they're getting to golf courses, and it's like usually a 3 or 4 week stretch in which a golfer is really, really popular. We're in that stretch right now for Keith Mitchell.
I know, and I have concerns. Okay. So I had concerns last week. He ended up top 10ing, so those sort of went to the wayside. That said, you're taking a player whose ceiling in Keith Mitchell I don't think is quite as high as those guys around him. Certainly yet, Hideki and Will Zalatoris are much better players than him. And you miss a little bit off the tee and you miss the cut. So I'm much more willing to pay for top end tier 1A talent versus I think Keith Mitchell's price is getting a little bit out there. That said, there's a lot of things to like about him. Plays well in Florida, likes these Bermuda grass greens, hitting his driver fantastic right now. I just think that he's due for some regression based on where, basically we've seen Keith Mitchell enough to know that about the type of player that he is.
For sure. And the other two guys at $5, you mentioned Zalatoris and Hideki Matsuyama. It's early. They probably won't end there. I'm super excited about what Hideki can do. His weeks at Bay Hill have been horrible putting weeks, yet he's still found a way to finish even top 40. And when you talk about a guy losing 7 strokes putting and finishing top 40, that's all upside from there. And Hideki's been phenomenal this year. So I'm excited about Hideki. And, Will Z, I'm just kind of in the middle on. I know there's a lot of people who are very excited about Zalatoris this week. I'm not down on him. I'm just basically neutral. I think he'll be fine, which probably means he won't be making my portfolio this evening.
Yes. I worry that maybe we saw like sort of the peak Will Z at the Farmers, and do we get that again on 2 starts later? I don't know. I'm much more comfortable, like you mentioned, in going to someone like Hideki. You mentioned he hasn't putted well, but he's 3rd in tee to green, specifically at Bay Hill. That's his strength. We know he's a great long iron player, and he's actually been putting it pretty well. So I'm looking at 3 of the last 4 starts, solid gains putting. He's won in 2 of the last 6 starts that he's had. I think we may have missed. Oh, this is Zalatoris. Okay, so he had the Zozo and obviously the Sony where he got scorching hot. But I believe led the field in birdies at the Waste Management as well. So he's making putts. He's making scores. I just think that this place sets up great for him and ultimately is a place that he's probably going to find himself with a PGA Tour victory before all is said and done. I couldn't believe, like, they tweeted out the picture earlier this week of his birthday. I could not believe Hideki was only 30 years old.
Crazy, right? He's been around forever.
It feels like he's been there forever. I felt like he's getting closer to 40, but still young, still has plenty of good years left in the tank. So rooting for him to have a good week.
He's in his prime now. He is getting a little bit of a bump here. So now $6.66 a share for Hideki Matsuyama. Zalatoris did jump up $1.25 since my last refresh. And then Matt Fitzpatrick, Joe, someone I'm very high on, someone who has 3 straight top 10s here at Bay Hill. He generally plays in these strong fields really well, these tough courses really well. Those are a couple of the boxes that you were asking some of our golfers to check off. So will you be in the mix for Matty Fitzpatty this week?
Depends on the price a little bit. I think that fair value is about a little bit above the max that I'm sort of willing to pay for him. That said, you mentioned plays hard golf course as well, has a lot of stats that would align that you would think would indicate success here at Bay Hill. We're not asking him to win, which is a big thing in the jock market to sort of return you some money. So it should be a good week for Fitz.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'll give away a little bit more money here in just a second. So make sure your Jock Market username is in the chat so you can be entered into that draw. But I do want to talk about a couple of these guys that are coming up on the board, and they're coming up in the chat here, Joe. We'll start with Cam Young. He's $4 a share. I'll tell you what, I've been very impressed with what Cam Young has been able to do. He is just a lightning rod off the tee. It's turning into results. I thought PGA National was probably a bad spot for him. Finished T16. I think this is a better spot for him. Like, how low, how deep into this leaderboard can Cam Young get?
I think he can top 20 again. He's been just fantastic with the driver. He's gaining a ton off the tee. I'm looking at like his last 4 events, 4.4 tee to green, 8.6, 2.4, 7.9. Like these are massive numbers that we see from a lot of the best players in the world. The driver is a weapon right now, and he's hitting it straight. So he needs to get, have a decent week with the putter, maybe tighten up a little bit of that around the green game. And I think that he's going to be a familiar name all the way through the summer. He's a good player.
Really good player, really impressed. You can see here's his Jock Market career. It's a very small sample size. He's only played in 11 markets. His average IPO, $3.10. He'll be well over that. In fact, he's already past that tonight, but he's returning you an average ROI about 130%. You can see the returns there. Yeah, very good stuff there. Okay, let me continue down the board here. We talked about Chris Kirk. We did not talk about any of these guys, Joe. So let me know if any of these names jump out at you. Max Homa's here, $5 a share at the moment. Jason Kokrak, $4.59, or Adam Svensson at $2.30. And I'll give this a refresh. Anybody in this range that's jumping out to you?
Svensson, my boy. But I don't know. I think he played well enough last week that probably you're buying in now at a high point. But was terrific ball striking. And I believe through Saturday led the field. One of 2 people ever to go 18 of 18 greens in regulation at PGA National. That's unbelievable. I was there on Monday. I can't imagine doing that. But the guy just missed a couple of short putts. I think he got himself into somewhat contention, which is going to be good for him long term. Got a great caddy, got a great mindset, got a great, all around game. The kid's a winner. Him at $2.30. I think that we get a nice little bump there. I'm not quite sure on Jason Kokrak. I feel like this is a good spot for him, but for some reason I just don't like him this week. Give me what you're feeling on Kokrak.
Yeah, I like Kokrak a lot. So going back to it's 8 years, he's been phenomenal. He's been just amazing at Bay Hill. And what I like about Kokrak is he will be volatile, but he has legitimate winning upside. What does he have? 3 wins in his last 18 months, something like that. So that is pretty rare to find a guy that still slips pretty far down the odds board, that still slips pretty far down the jock market, that has actual winning upside. And then you put him at a place where, if he's at his true DNA, where he drives it well and he's played well before, like I think that's how you run these guys out. I think that's the time.
I like it. Can I put you on stage with another player?
Sure.
Sam Burns. What are we doing? Is this a buy low spot for Burns, or are things just headed? So listen, I looked when he got the win at Valspar, right? Obviously in Florida. Before that, 3 consecutive missed cuts, actually right around this time of the year. I think it was Honda. I think it was here and maybe the Players or something like that. And then all of a sudden he had a top 30 and then he won. So obviously can sort of flip the switch off a couple of missed cuts in a row. Is this a spot where we can get in on Burns, do you think?
I will not be involved in that, and I hope I'm wrong because I love the guy and I love the way that he plays. But I think he's lost strokes off the tee in 3 of 4 this year. He's lost strokes on approach in 3 of 4. He's lost strokes putting in 3 of 4. Those are 3 really big strengths of his game. The fact that he's struggling in all 3 is a concern. And then you look at what he's done at Bay Hill. He's never gained strokes tee to green in 4 trips. I want to wait like another week or 2, but I'm ready. I'm ready to buy low on Sam Burns. I just don't think it's here.
I know. Same here. Remember that though, that the 3 missed cuts last year, a top 30 and then a win. So if I see like a top 30 this week, I'll probably be in at the Players.
All right. I can get behind that. All right. Well, this is the latest in the show that we have ever first mentioned Jon Rahm, and the number 1 pre-ranked golfer is making a bit of a move right now. Rahm is now $7 a share, the second most expensive golfer behind Rory McIlroy. Rahm is at $7. You're asking him to finish 22nd or better. That's basically the worst finish he's had in, forever. I think Rahm might be the most fascinating golfer in this field, Joe, because he's lost strokes putting in 2 straight. He's been hemorrhaging strokes around the green for a guy who's amazing around the green. And you can see the frustration mounting. Now he goes to Bay Hill where he's never played in competition. And you have a lot of people kind of shrugging their shoulders, not knowing what to do with the number 1 player in the world. So what do we do with the number 1 player in the world?
Well, in this market, it's going to ultimately depend on price for me. Lost in 4 of the last 6. That's concerning. You mentioned he's just getting crushed around the greens, but that's a weird thing. Like not every around the green shot is the same, whether it's sitting up, sitting down. Did you short side yourself? Did you leave yourself plenty of room with an uphiller? Or did you leave yourself basically an impossible shot? So I don't know exactly how they're figuring out, honing in on those strokes gained numbers, but it's been bad. You're right. What concerns me most, Rick, when I see him is the body language looks terrible out there. He's getting frustrated with fans. It seems like no shot is really good enough for him at this point, which we know how tricky expectations are in golf and how it's such a mental game and how that can play an important factor ultimately in performance. So I just worry that maybe there's a weight on his shoulders. Number 1 player in the world. It's been a while since he won, going all the way back to June now. So it should, he's never played here before, but he's long and he's accurate. This should be a great setup for him.
Yeah, there's no course on the planet that Jon Rahm is not a good setup for.
Good point. The body language concerns me. Feels like he's not having fun out there. It feels like things are, one thing sort of goes wrong and his expectation level is essentially perfection at this point, which we know is obviously unattainable.
Yeah, I would love. Is it bad that I want him to miss the cut so I can get a really good number on him next week, or like get like a really good? I don't know what great number I would get. I don't think the books are going to offer anything, but like I don't think you hold down John Rahm very long. But I agree. I just don't think there's enough, especially with some of the other options that are available and what we know the price might get to on John Rahm by the evening coming up. I won't have him. I won't. Just
right. Me neither. And I know that one of these weeks he's going to win by 6 and he's going to burn us, but I'm willing to sort of roll that dice week to week.
Yeah, he'll wipe the board with us here eventually, but we've avoided it for long enough. All right, let's turn this around and go to the top 10 here because we still have a couple of top 10 players who are the minimum $1 price. That's obviously going to change, but Victor Hovland, the second pre-ranked golfer, still $1. Scotty Scheffler, the third pre-ranked golfer, still $1. Adam Scott, 8th, $1. Billy Horschel, 9th, $1. Terrell Hatton, 10th, $1. Of those 5 guys who are still at a buck, Joe, which one would you most prefer to have in your portfolio tonight?
At $1, Vic, I think that he has the highest upside and the highest winning potential, but I have a lot of interest, Rick, in Adam Scott this week.
Okay.
I feel like he's going to get a PGA Tour win in this year. I bet him this week. I've seen numbers improve off the tee for him. I think long-term, like he was experimenting with that 48-inch driver for a little while and things got wacky off the tee. He's back and he seems to be striping it really well. And the guy's putting it well also right now. He's got a bunch of wins in Florida. He's won the Honda. He won at Doral. He's won the Players. This is like the 4th leg that he needs to sort of complete the Florida sweep. And I think he has a good chance of getting it done this week.
I like the way that he pops, right? He'll return you, or he'll lose you money in the market like he did 3 straight in Houston and RSM and then Phoenix, but then boom, plus 159, 159% ROI, 116 at the CJ Cup, 264 at Wyndham, 97 at the Travel. He will pop for you, which I think is a skill set that I love. Okay, so outside of Adam Scott, that leaves us with Horschel, Hatton, Scotty Scheffler. Any interest in those guys?
Not really for me. I should have interest in Scheffler. Should set up great here. At that fair value price at $849. I don't know that he's as good of a player right now as Hideki, as Victor. I may be wrong on that long term, but I think he already got his win this year, and I think that's the only one we see out of him. Hatton and Horschel are perplexing to me. Hatton, we just don't know. I mean, he was a top 5 player in the world, believe it or not too long ago. It seems like things have fallen off and we just haven't seen him. I know that he's got a home in this area right around Bay Hill, has the win here, of course. And Horschel is like an anomaly right now as well. I don't know how he finished like 16th last week because he was all out of sorts, but managed to put together another good finish. The stats it's like looks tough, but then you look where he finishes, and that's all that really matters in terms of Jock Market is finishing position and projected rank. He's 9th in PR, and he's finishing well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he caught my attention as well as someone that I think can make a little bit of a move. Let me give away a little bit more money. The next $20 goes out to Mr. Unlucky. You are no longer unlucky. That's $20 going in your direction. Congratulations. If you want to be like Mr. Unlucky and win $20 at the Jock Market, make sure your username is in the chat. And of course, the code you're looking for deposit, power, up to a $50 deposit bonus. Joe, let's see if we can find some guys at the bottom of the barrel here, right? Let's scroll all the way down. I'm going sub $3 at the moment. I won't name all of these guys, but I know Danny Willett might be interesting for some. I know Martin Laird has been on a little bit of a run as of late. Christian Bezaden, Hote. Even outside of those guys, are you seeing a sub $3 name that you think can outperform their expectation this evening?
Okay, so a couple of guys. I don't know where he finishes at, but I'm going to have a close eye on Thomas Pieters. I think this should be a good course for him. I like the way his strengths set up for a place like Bay Hill. And I want to also keep a very close look at Sahith. The last time we saw him was at the Genesis, the letdown spot of all letdown spots. And he made the cut. He's made every one of them so far in 2022, depending where you can get his price. He was like hot. Everyone was talking about him. Now that guy is kind of Cameron Young, has kind of taken on that role. And maybe people sleep on Sahith a little bit this week. Very good player. Should set up well. I'll keep an eye on the price, but if he's around the mid twos, I will be a buyer.
Yeah, you like those bombers? He can move it too, man. Like
Yeah.
he can absolutely move it if that's the style of golfer that you're looking for this evening. We are seeing Rory McIlroy trickle up now $9.07. Hideki Matsuyama 786, John Rahm 777, Matt Fitzpatrick at 766, and Scotty Scheffler at 733. So this market is rounding out. Joe Sung J Im is up here as well at $6.25. But we're about to get into a flurry here with just a couple of minutes left in this IPO. Do you think there'll be, I don't know, any surprise? Like, what would be surprising? It's got to go Rory Rahm in some combination. What would it be surprising if John Rahm was not the most expensive golfer, considering
That's what I
he's
was
the
just going to
favorite?
say. I don't remember the last market that we've had where he has not been the most expensive golfer. So, I remember talking about a couple weeks ago, like Will Cantlay beat him. He
Yeah,
ended up
he
not
didn't.
passing him.
Yeah.
So I think Rahm ultimately gets it done, but I feel like everyone's kind of cooled on him a little bit. And this is the ultimate place to test the public sentiment and opinion. That's all that really matters, because you're only going to bid on guys that you think are going to play well. If people have soured a little bit on John Rahm, maybe Rory comes in hot.
All right. Well, it is 8:53 by my clock. So this is the point of the show where we let Joe go do his thing, and he will make his bids, and we'll check out his portfolio when all is said and done and the dust clears, and I'll take you the rest of the way. So, Joe, good luck, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, so the way this is going to work, at 8:57 or so, we enter a 90-second window. That 90-second window means the IPO can close at any moment. It's randomized. That's for your protection and everybody else's protection to keep it fair. So the bids are going to start coming in. Make sure you've got your notifications on. Make sure you got your players favorited so that you can have easy access to them, because you are going to see a lot of movement, and I'm going to update you on the pricing as we get closer to the finish line here. One big refresh of the big board, and oh boy, here he comes, John Rahm, trying to make that move. He is not the most expensive golfer in the jock market just yet, but he's at $8.76, and he's closing the gap to Rory McIlroy, who is now $9.20. John Rahm has not only been probably the most expensive golfer in whatever IPO he's been in for 6 months, but he's also the number one pre-ranked golfer tonight. And that is important because it breaks all ties. So no matter what finishing position John Rahm finishes in, even if it's a 9-way tie for second, he gets the full second place payout. That is very, very important. Rory McIlroy's pre-rank is fourth. Hideki Matsuyama, 786 a share right now. He's your fifth pre-ranked golfer. And then there we go. Finally, a little love for Victor Hovland, who has entered the chat. $7.79 for Victor, with Matt Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler, and Will Zalatoris remaining as the only other golfers over $7 a share. And then there is about a 50 or 60 cent gap to just two: Sung Jae Im, Keith Mitchell, two golfers that both play very well in Florida. Sung Jae is coming off a very disappointing week. We'll see if that ends up affecting his price this evening, but his 90% negative ROI last week was his worst performance in the jock market ever. So maybe you get an opportunity to buy at an all-time low. We'll see how that pans out. I'm going to give the big board a refresh here. 8:55 by my clock. And okay, it didn't take long. John Rahm is now the most expensive golfer in the jock market. He has surpassed Rory McIlroy, and he is leaving him in his dust. $9.62 for Mr. Rahm at the moment, which still, I mean, we have seen his last four IPO prices at 1040, 1178, 1075, and 1191. He has not been under $10 since the Century Tournament of Champions. He was 966, and I doubt we are going to see him finish under $10 here this evening. Rory McIlroy still stuck at 920, and Hideki Matsuyama making a little bit of a move with Scotty Scheffler as well. Big move, I believe, in the last couple of moments to Adam Scott, now $5.55, with Mark Leishman, a former champion, sitting at $6. If we turn this around and look at the top 10 pre-ranked golfers, as you can imagine, John Rahm still reigns supreme, but the cheapest top 10 golfer right now is Billy Horschel, $5.05. He's returned you a profit in 3 straight cash markets, 91% at the Farmers, 154 in Phoenix, and a 3% ROI last week at the Honda Classic. So maybe Billy Horschel should be catching a little bit of steam here over the next minute or two. Terrell Hatton, who won this event 2 years ago, $5.35. His cash market history is a bit bare because we haven't seen him play in a cash market, a PGA cash market, since the Hero World Challenge. He finished T9 and returned you a 16% ROI. He's been playing a lot on that DP World Tour. Let me give the big board a refresh. As of right now, we're in that window, or we're about to be in that window, because it's not 8:57 by my clock, which means we're about 90 seconds or so. At any point, this thing can close. Jon Rahm, still the most expensive golfer, but Rory McIlroy is trying to take it away from him. Rory McIlroy is trying to say, not you, Patrick Cantlay. I'll be the guy. I'll be the guy that takes away your crown in a cash market. And I'll do it at Bay Hill. $9.55. Hideki Matsuyama and Scotty Scheffler have both gotten through the $8 mark, and we're seeing a little bit of steam on both Adam Scott and Paul Casey. Now both of them over $6 a share. And Sung Jae Im, people are willing to forgive and forget. That's $7 a share, which is essentially asking him to finish 21st or better, and it's right on his fair value. So we put his fair value at $6.98. He's at $7. Cam Young has not moved from $5.50. Billy Horschel has not really moved from $5.50. Jason Kokrak, Max Homa, Cameron Tringale right behind. We're still seeing some pretty good players sub $5. If you're willing to buy low on Sam Burns, $4.88. That is the cheapest Sam Burns has been since his T2 at the WGC at the end of last year in Memphis. That's the last time we've seen Sam Burns this cheap. Joe's interested. He's going to go buy some shares up.
I'm interested.
Now. I saw the eyebrow move. Thomas Peters, $4.29. You can see his results here. Only 4 cash markets, 2 not so great results, but he's been much better on that DP World Tour. I'm going to try to steal one more refresh here. See what we can find. Okay, Jon Rahm not going to let Rory McIlroy get away with this. $10.55 at the moment per share, with Rory McIlroy at $9.63. Rory's the only golfer in the $9 tier. There are 4 in the 8s. It's Scotty Scheffler, Hideki, Victor, and Matt Fitzpatrick. So no surprise there. Adam Scott trying to surpass Mark Leishman. Every time I refresh, Adam Scott's 50 cents a share more expensive. Impressive stuff coming from the Australian there. Let me see if I can see a little bit of movement on Sam Burns. Okay, Joe might have put a bid in. $5.55. Still pretty cheap by Sam Burns standards. That's the cheapest he's been since the Tour Championship when he was $6.54. So very good stuff if you're trying to buy low. Are we done?
Close her down.
Shut it down. Shut it down. The IPO is closed.
Flurry on Burns late. I was involved. I think I got outbid. We'll see in a second here when they come over to the holdings.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. So we let the dust settle here. We'll get Joe's portfolio. I'll give away a little bit of money, but once my big board gets refreshed and I have all the final numbers. So why don't I do this? Why don't I give away a little cash? The next $20 is going to Master of Traj. I like that. Trajectory. Very good. You are on the board. Congratulations. We will get that money over to your account in the next couple of business days. So bear with us there. Joe, has your portfolio come across yet?
Let me get a quick refresh. Yes, it has. So starting at the top, Rick, Hideki.
Okay,
all in on Hideki week this week. Got him at 833. I think that's right around where he was projected. I'm not exactly sure. A couple of guys. Really, that's the only guy I really got up top. A couple in the 4s here. Rose, Peters. I felt like Rose was actually, it's already showing me a big plus minus on Rose in the right direction. So
you got him under the fair value there.
Yeah, I think his projection was right around $6, and I got him at 495. Peters at 429. Then just sort of bottom feeding. I got 4 guys down here in the mid 3s and below. Gary Woodland, thought looked really good last week. Drove it well, hit his irons well, actually putted well on Sunday until the 18th. Willett, who we talked about briefly, but I think we're going to see a resurgence from Danny Willett. Won the Alfred Dunhill He's moved down here to Florida to work with swing coach Sean Foley. Been putting in a lot of work. I think we're going to see him make another move. And then a couple of guys who have just been making cuts and been making ROIs. Sam Ryder, JJ Spawn. JJ Spawn has been great in the jock market. A couple of 100% returns.
Yeah.
And he's just been steady down here in the $2.66 I got him for this week. His price hasn't really been going up. And the guy's just putting together good finishes, driving it great and really accurate off the tee right now. Typically has 1 or 2 hot putting days throughout the tournament. If he can get through the cut, 266 is a good price. Did you get all those? Those are my 7.
You know what? I missed one. Who was with Spawn? It was
Sam Ryder.
Okay, so I've got you for Hideki, Rose, Peters, Woodland, Willett, Spawn, Ryder. Is that all of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's Joe's portfolio. Let us know who you got in the chat. We always like to see that, but at this point, I can give you the big board here, and we can see if there's any surprises. John Rahm was not going to be dethroned tonight. $10.55 a share. He is still our alpha in the jock market.
Yeah, 10.55. He caught some late steam because he was there in the 9. So people aren't shy about John Rahm. We know how good he is. It's only a matter of time before he gets a 1 next to his name in position.
That's more expensive than he was at Riviera.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah,
it's a lot. Rory McIlroy, 985. He's in the second tier of his own there. No surprise. And then the guys that we kind of thought would be right behind: Scheffler, Victor, Hideki, Fitzpatrick. Any out of the top 6, you think anybody else should have been in there? Should Sung Jae have been there? Should Zalatoris have been more expensive?
I think it kind of mirrors the odds board pretty well this week. We don't always see that. I did have some Sung Jae, I think at like 722. So that was the one that I lost out on late there. But yeah, I think that everything looks pretty correct there in my opinion.
A $7 Sung Jae, at least the last 2 times he's been in that price range, he's returned your profit in both. So it's a pretty good price on our last 3 actually in the 7s. Pretty good for Sung Jae Im. Leishman kicks off the $6 range with Adam Scott, Paul Casey, Keith Mitchell, Max Homa. This all looks about right. I'm really interested to see what Billy Horschel does. You know, this is 3 good events in a row, and this is on the cheaper side of things for him. He was $824 at the Honda, return to profit, now $603. I think he could end up being a steal at that price.
Yeah, he's frustrating in a sense. I don't really like the putting thing just bothers me. It's just not quite my brand. And the way that he was following him around a little bit last week, he seemed to be very grumpy, to say the least. But returning you a good money in the jock market, so you let your dollars do the talking. He did mention, though, something, Rick, in like the post-round thing in one of his interviews that he's basically exclusively hit a draw his entire career. He's working with a swing coach now, basically trying to hit a fade, and he seemed very frustrated with it, although it was kind of working. It wasn't like he's hitting it okay, but he seems to think that it's not all being put together. I just have a feeling an implosion is due for Billy Ho. I don't know if it's coming this week, but soon.
Late flurry for Sam Burns, $5.60. As I mentioned, that's the cheapest he's been since.
Good price.
Yeah, the this entire season he's been more.
Corey Connors too. I mean, he's been kind of in the same. I wouldn't say the same as Burns, but he was so hot, and it felt like he was basically top 15ing everything there for a while. A couple of missed cuts in a row. Maybe he's, it seems like a fair price down there at $5.35.
Cam Young went for $5.55. That's interesting. Sahith went for $4.26 a share. That's a pretty good price. Svensson at $3.62.
Yeah, I think I might regret not going back to Svensson there. Although PGA was just such a good course for him. That's where he won, sort of getting into through his Q school was at PGA National. So great history there for him. He lives right here in West Palm. It's just tough, right? He had a lot of like friends and family following him around on Sunday. So maybe a little bit of a, you get yourself into contention and you blow a couple in the water through the bear trap, maybe a little bit of a letdown spot. Who knows?
Yeah, well, listen, the live stuff, what I know about Florida with these swings is being in the jock market live also very valuable as long as you're paying attention and knowing what the scoring holes are and knowing the holes that could become troublesome, Joe, because I think, what was the cut line last week? 2 over. Is that what it ended up being?
Yeah, 2 over. Yeah. Anything on? Haven't really looked, but anything on advantageous weather draw that you've seen this week?
I saw, do not quote me on this, but last time I checked, which as you know, in Florida can change quite quickly, I think Friday afternoon was worse, but I didn't know. I don't remember if it was big enough for it to be actionable.
Yeah, things can change
I'll have to
quickly. Like
check.
you said, it's just gusty here. Like, no matter what the wind is, even last week at PGA, it was like 10 to 12 mile an hour winds, which is nothing. But when it goes from 0 to like 15, that's what messes with these guys.
Yeah, you get gusted and it's no fun out there. Okay, well, this is the second leg of the Florida swing, and the next one next week, pretty big, Joe. Players Championship.
Yeah.
Also, I imagine we're getting, I haven't heard, are we getting every shot live again? We have to, right?
We have to. Yeah, we got to get every shot live. I think it's on a slight tape delay, but it was really cool. I wish they would roll it out more. But yeah, you can get every shot from every player, just basically the birds chirping and players shooting.
I love that. Everything about it.
Awesome.
So really good stretch of golf for us now, and it'll be the Masters before you know it. So good luck in the jock market this week, Joe. I will see you next Wednesday night, dude.
Later. See you guys.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks for stopping by.
Good night. See ya.